got up and saw the frame had fallen to the floor and cracked. The picture frame I hung of my grandma had fallen and cracked on the night I agreed to date Spencer. I held the frame in my hand, my heart in my throat, my whole body shaking. I called Spencer the next day and told him I think we should go our separate ways for a while, as my head isn't in the right place. And he blew up on the phone in anger. And that phone call proved my grandma was right about him. That picture frame falling and breaking. What could have caused it? There was no draft in the room. Even as I imagined that it was somehow a sign from my grandma, do you realize how freaking scary that is? I took my Jeep on a road trip to Colorado to do some off-roading in the wilderness. I was doing a bunch of trails in the Red Feather Lakes, and I was ending the night off on the Dead Man's Road Trail. It was a somewhat challenging trail, but the scenery was unbeatable. I packed a sleeping bag. I planned on sleeping in the back of my Jeep with the back seats folded down. I pulled somewhere off the immediate trail, just off the slight chance some other night drivers would pass by. But that was very unlikely. I guess people can call me a weirdo for enjoying off-roading on my own, camping alone. But I've always liked doing things solo. I use the word camping because I do consider this to just be luxury camping. Instead of being in a tent, I'm in the back of my Jeep in the middle of the woods. I ate some of the protein bars and other snacks I brought as my little dinner. Then I set up my sleeping bag in the back. In case you're wondering if I was doing this in the dark, I had the LED light bar on my Jeep on, which basically lit up the entire surrounding area pretty nicely. So I finally crawl into the sleeping bag, and I'd be lying if I said it's comfortable sleeping back there. It's the price to pay for off-roading in the sunrise for me. I had the windows all closed to avoid bugs getting in, but I still heard everything outside. And then it happened. I heard a voice from out in the woods, followed by a short, loud laughter. Deep into the trail I was. There's no way someone was just walking around out there. Not in this total darkness. I looked out the windows expecting to see headlights or taillights somewhere. Nope. I heard the voice again, much clearer. I couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman at first. It was shaking now, though. Someone was out there, that much was clear. Though I was hearing a voice, I didn't know what was being said just yet. And I laid there, waiting for it again, scared to death. For a while, just crickets. Then, much closer now, I heard in a clear voice, belonging to either a woman or a young boy. Hello, I see you there. Now I was ready to throw up. I wanted to move to the driver's seat and drive, but I was too scared to move. I felt like if I just stayed laying down, whoever was out there wouldn't see me. I know that makes no sense, but hiding and not moving was me clinging on to the hope that this wasn't actually happening. Then, there was one loud bang on my rear windshield, and I jumped up and practically dove over the two front seats into the driver's seat. And I started the car and drove as quickly as I could manage down the trail, scared they were running after me because I could only go so fast on this rocky terrain. I was scared to look in the rearview mirror, and when I did, I didn't see anyone through the red glow of my taillights. It was a nightmare. I was tired. I drove the rest of the trail until I was back on pavement. Then I drove for miles until I reached a motel. Some people have asked me, what if there was someone stranded who needed help? And I say no way. No one's out there that late in the pitch black, laughing without a flashlight that deep on some trail. They wouldn't bang on my windshield just once like that if they weren't trying to scare me. People are messed up. Always watch your back and be woke to your surroundings. This is one of the few unexplainable events I've experienced in my life. I was home upstairs in my room, writing my paper for my history class. As far as I knew, I was home alone. Apparently I was mistaken, as my mom's voice called out from downstairs, yelling my name. I called back, what? She didn't answer. So, slightly annoyed because I didn't want to be interrupted from my train of thought on my paper, I reluctantly got up to go downstairs and see what she wanted. When I got downstairs, I looked around for my mom, but she wasn't anywhere in sight. So I yelled out, Mom? She yelled back my name in response. The voice came from down in the basement, so I went to the basement door, but strangely the lights were off. I called down the stairs, Mom, again, and she called back. I yelled out, what are you doing down there with the lights off? She didn't respond. I flicked on the light and went down the stairs. I heard my mom call my name again, as I was near to the bottom of the steps. It was getting weird. Each time she called my name, it sounded exactly the same. Like there was zero difference in inflection every single time she said my name. I yelled out Mom again. She once again yelled back my name. She was nowhere to be seen in the basement. Then I noticed the little crawl-space closet door was open. I call it that because it's a weird closet that you have to kind of crawl into, but it takes up a large chunk of the basement. That was the only place left in the basement that my mom could be. So I said, Mom, one final time. No answer this time. I went closer to the closet door and got on my knees just to try and look in. It was pitch black inside. I was starting to get freaked out. I said, Mom, are you messing with me? There was no response at all. Just a quiet buzzing sound from the basement light. I got back up. For some reason, decided to sprint back upstairs, slamming and locking the basement door behind me. I didn't know what I had just witnessed and heard. I went to grab the house phone and call my mom's cell number. She rang a few times until my mom picked up. I learned that she was out grocery shopping. I told her that she didn't believe my story, of course. She thought I was messing with her. It took half an hour of begging her to believe me that she finally went along with it. When she and my dad were both home, we all went down to the basement together. The closet door was still open. My dad went inside. There was no one in there. It still remains to be the most haunting and unexplainable experience of my life. I was only about 9 years old when this happened. I was sleeping over my grandma's house for the weekend, which I often did when I was little. It was a stormy day out. My grandma was out at the nearby grocery store getting ingredients for dinner. I was in the living room watching SpongeBob. The phone rang. There was obviously zero reason for me to answer the phone, but I was a little kid with a little kid brain. There was no explaining any decisions made. I went to the kitchen and picked up the phone. And after my little kid voice said hello into the phone, the man's voice on the other end said, "Can I speak to the adult in the house?" I said, "She's not home." And the voice responded, "So, alone right now." I remember I paused for a second, and he said, "Yeah." And at my age, I knew after he asked that it probably wasn't a good idea to have picked up the phone. The person on the other end then asked if the current address he had on file was correct. I didn't answer that. I hung up the phone, and now I was nervous. I was worried I might have just gotten my grandma in trouble. Nonetheless, I went back to watching SpongeBob. 20 minutes later or so, there was a frantic knocking at the door. I muted the TV and listened. Along with the knocking, someone on the other end cried out, "Please help." It was a man. I snuck over to the edge of the wall where the opening to the front door was to take a peek and see if I saw anyone standing on the other side of the door through the glass at the top of the door. That was a mistake, because I did. And they saw me too. The man on the other side of the door immediately said, "Little boy, please open the door. I'm hurt bad." I ran to the corner of the room by the window and closed the blinds so I could hide behind the couch. I was so scared. There were no cell phones back then. I couldn't call my grandma. The man kept pounding on the door. His cries for help turned more annoyed sounding. His knocks got louder and more frequent. And the pounds on the door stopped. He started knocking on the window right next to me. The creep started saying things like, "I'm not going to hurt you. Please, I'm bleeding bad." I started to cry in the corner, still hiding behind the couch. The pounding stopped finally, and after a minute, I ran to my grandma's room and locked the door. I laid in her bed under the cover, with only my head sticking out. The rain hitting the windowsill, and the occasional distant thunder was weirdly calming, at least for a little bit. A man on the other side appeared at one of the windows. I started trying to lift it open. Thank God all the windows were locked. Now I hid under the covers completely, and I don't think he saw me in there. This was the last time I saw or heard that. 20 minutes later, I heard my grandma coming through the front door. I ran into her arms, crying and apologizing. I told her everything. She, of course, called the police. When the officers needed me to give whatever details I could, my grandma called me into the room, and I answered her questions. And she sent me back off to the gas bedroom to watch them. Fortunately, that man was never caught. For this, my grandma never told my parents. She told me not to tell them either. She also never left me alone again anytime I slept over after that, which wasn't many times. Long story short, I was one unlocked door away from undoubtedly being scared. I'm a father of two children. They're 15 and 10. My wife was out of the house at the time. I was in my room taking a nap in the middle of the day. I older son is always in and out all day, every day with his friends. So when I heard the front door constantly opening and closing, it didn't concern me. But eventually, when I heard the storm door slam shut for a fourth time, I started to get annoyed and whistled at him to quiet down. I started hearing other loud noises from across the hallway, in the direction of my younger son Keith's room. I imagined he was playing with his wrestling toys or something. Regardless, even with my door shut, the noise got to be too much. It was just like a constant thumping sound. What could Keith possibly be doing? When I went across the hall to his room, the noise became more clear. It was this literal thumping on the wall sound. I went into his room. The door was already open. It said Keith's name angrily. I didn't see my son. I saw some grown man facing the wall, banging his head into the wall. There was blood on the wall from his constant banging. The man gave me a side glance without turning his whole head. I managed to tackle the man to the floor, and that's when Keith emerged from under his sheets where he was hiding. The man didn't fight back. He started yelling the psychotic mumbo-jumbo, proving his lack of sanity. I told Keith to go get the house phone while I held the man down. After calling the police, I was in that same position for at least 5 minutes before they arrived. The man just kept smiling and laughing, saying things that made no sense the entire time. The man was ill or on some serious drugs, or both. I didn't press charges. I'm sure he was taken somewhere to get the help he clearly needed, and to get him off the streets. I've had many nights. I've struggled with many sleep.
Here we go.
I can't even count how many times I've experienced sleep paralysis. It's a truly disturbing thing. I've also woken to see spiders and other giant bugs in my bed countless times, for them to only disappear as I start to snap back to reality. But the hallucinations are always so real and vivid. I always find myself jumping out of my bed screaming, throwing pillows at the non-existent bugs. Don't even get me started on the constant nightmares I have. There was one stressful week or two. I was up to my ears in homework with all my classes. I was admittedly exhausted mentally and physically. With half of my assignments due the next day, which was Friday, I was up extremely late for a school night. It had to be like 3 a.m. I had to be up in 3 hours. When I finally finished all of my assignments, I literally crashed into bed. I was out cold faster than I could remember. That night, I was having a bad dream again. The best I could describe this bizarre dream. It was for some reason in this linear building that I was trying to escape. And in each passing room, I kept finding candies, like it was a Halloween attraction or something. But in the dream, I was running away from something. And the something I was running away from kept laughing. It was a child laughing. It sounded like it was coming from everywhere. What caused me to wake up was when I made it to what was presumed to be the final door of the building. The laughing was the loudest. When I opened the door, I woke up in my bed. I couldn't move. The laughter in the middle of the room. I moved my eyes and focused to the middle of the room. There were 4 people standing in the center of the room. It was like a family, a tall male and female, and then a small boy and girl. They were all holding hands, they were all laughing, looking at me with giant grins on their faces, impossibly wide grins. As I felt this tight pressure in my chest, which is common in sleep paralysis, I started to feel like they were getting bigger, or just getting closer. They were all floating towards me. My body finally permitted. I threw the sheets off of me, threw my pillows into the middle of the room, screaming. The pillows did nothing, but 4 fingers fell, and the horrible laughing had stopped. I had never experienced a hallucination. I had had sleep paralysis many times. I had to see my doctor and prescribed me new medication. Since then, I still had my share of nothing. I was 15. I had my first girlfriend. We lived in an upper-class area, very quiet and peaceful streets. My girlfriend Casey also lived 2 blocks away, so I could walk to her house almost nightly. One Thursday night during break, when I had nothing to do, I started my walk over to Casey's house. It was on the later side of the night, but I didn't really have a curfew, so it didn't matter. But pretty soon, I thought I could start hearing noises from around me. And when I say around me, I mean mostly behind me. The first time I heard it, it was the sound of a bush being shaken a bit. I only turned my head to look.
Alright, let's see what we get. This is like one of the only free deluxe crates you get. I have golden. I really can't open that. You know, you can't. Of course, there's gonna be none of that. You know. Still, finally beat hardcore. That's gaming.